Welcome to the Forever Classic Podcast, the show seeking enlightenment through video games, films, and other geek culture. I'm Alex McCumbers, coming to you from Plano, Texas now, a little bit of a change of pace for me, and I've got here with me the man with the plan, Mr. Zachary Snyder.
Hey guys, how's everybody today?
Zach, it is going to be a rip-roaring episode today. We've got Mr. Henpaku on the show with us, and we're going to talk about Dead Cells speedruns, which is a game that kind of made a lot of big waves there for a little bit, and even now it's like continuous support. They keep adding things. When I saw them at PAX, they're like, if people keep playing it, we'll keep putting stuff in it. And so, Paku, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hello, my name is Henpaku, and I'm the world record holder for the any percent speedruns for Dead Cells. Any percent just means just play the game and get to the ending as quickly as possible through whatever means. There's no holds barred. You can use bugs, glitches, weird exploits, just as long as you're not using a third-party tool. And it's really fun. I like it. Please watch my channel.
Speedrunning has always been something that has super fascinated me. And for anybody that wants to look up Paku, we'll have his link in the description as well. But it's Henpaku. And Paku, you're in Japan, which is, I think, a first for us. We've talked to somebody in Taiwan before, but I think you're the first Japanese guest.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
First.
We're trying to pin the world map, so to speak. We've got people from Germany, we've had people from Nova Scotia, all sorts. And it's been a while since we've had a speedrunner, so I'm really excited about this one. Because I love speedrunning. I used to cover speedruns specifically for twingalaxies.com, which is actually where I met Henpaku, because I was just doing research on whatever the most popular speedruns were. That's where I discovered Paku, so that was really cool. So we did an interview way back when, and now here we are probably 2 or 3 years later, and you're back on top.
Yeah, it's been so weird. The game has changed so much since I first started speedrunning it, and I actually never thought I would speedrun it. It's so weird how I got into it. I was playing the game normally when it was first out, and it was still early access, the game.
Right.
And back then, the final boss, the one that they added recently, was the Assassin, which is now known as the Timekeeper. And so it had a different boss name. And so Clock Tower, after that, you'd fight the boss, and then that was the end of the game. Mm-hmm. And they were going to add more stuff. And so speedruns ended there. And I was playing the game on higher difficulties, just casually playing. And I don't remember who it was, but someone in the chat was just like, hey man, you're actually really good at the game. And I was like, oh, hey, thanks. I've been playing it a lot. Hey, do you ever thought about have you ever thought about speedrunning the game? And I was like, no way in a million years could I possibly speedrun this game. Speedrunners are absolute mad lads. They're insane. And, it takes an incredible amount of skill that I don't have or I'm willing to learn. And the guy's like, no, really, man. Just try it. And I was like, I don't feel like trying it. And he's like, no, you have to try it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me look at what the speedrun looks like. And if it doesn't look super ridiculous, I'll give it a try. And I watched the video, and the speedrunner was doing some stuff with the assault shield and going really quick. And I was like, what the hell is this? I can't do that. And then so I looked up a guide how to do the thing. And I was like, okay, let me try it once. And I did one run. And I was just 4 minutes off from the world record at the time, wow. Which I think was either between 12 or 15 minutes. I don't really remember what it was back then.
Yeah.
Oh, and wow. So I was 4 minutes off, and I was like, oh, actually, maybe I could do this. So I got Live Split, and I joined the Speedrun Discord, where I could get some advice. And then I just started doing runs. And soon my time overtook the first place time. So then I became the world record holder. And then ever since, it was getting lower and lower and lower, and it's just kind of just been that trend ever since.
Yeah, and this is all while the game is actively adapting and changing, because I think there's been 2 or 3 major patches come out since release.
Yeah, when Hand of the King was added, then that became the final boss for the game. And then they added, I think, they added changes to biomes. They shuffled stuff around. They were adding new enemies. They were adding new weapons. And then eventually 1.0 came out, which was the sort of unofficial, ending. You would go all the way to Hand of the King, and then after you beat the Hand of the King, you would initiate a cutscene, and then that was the sort of the true ending.
Gotcha.
And then in another update later, they added a new boss, the Giant, and then another sort of secret boss, and you could only go to the secret boss if you played on the hardest difficulty, and then that would be the actual true ending.
Of course.
So you got like the regular ending, and I guess like the secret true ending that you kind of had to earn through like blood and fire.
And nowadays, you all aren't even fighting bosses in the speedrun, which is great because, like, I always struggled with boss strategies.
I mean, the bosses are fun though. Like, I don't have anything against bosses, but since the goal is to finish it quickly, and if we can skip the boss, then we will skip it.
May as well.
But we have other categories. Like, Dead Cells is split into for what's called the any percent warpless category.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed from any percent to any percent warpless because when you get the true ending for the first time, there's a special cutscene that plays the very next time you start a run, where the timekeeper teleports you to the clock tower, and then you get a special cutscene where you can unlock an alternative secret ending from there. However, because you're teleported to Clock Tower, if you use speedrun strats, you can skip the boss fight and then continue playing as normal.
Which is why that speed runs down to like a minute 30 or something.
Yeah, and so that was the birth of the any percent warps category.
I see.
So in order to make, because it was just so different of a run that like, so you could do warps and then you could do just regular any percent. And I like going through all the biomes, so I decided to stick with any percent. And then there's the 5 boss cell category for the true ending. And then the other one, which is also actually really popular, is the fresh file category, where you start a brand new save and then you see if you can beat the game.
That one's insane, because I don't know, Zach, have you played Dead Cells at all? Because I just recently, I bought it back in PAX. I have a physical copy that's signed by random developers. I don't remember which ones, but I have a physical Switch cart. I've been playing since I got here in Texas, and so I'm like just kind of understanding it, and I've put like 15 hours into it.
No, I haven't played it. I've watched, especially Henpaku, play a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
Because he's on when I'm up in the morning before anything's going on, so I gotta watch him while I'm doing other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching.
Paku,
you're welcome. Yeah, a lot of times I don't say anything. I just pop in there, and then occasionally I'll throw a bunch of random music at you.
I love it when people throw music, and it makes me happy.
But yeah, so I don't know what the beginning's like when you start a new thing. Like I didn't look up if you found new powers, you unlocked things as you went that you kept for future runs. I just kind of caught where people had all this stuff unlocked and have been doing different runs and playing through it. And that's been about it. So I have a good understanding of the gist. I don't know like the actual like hand mechanics to make a lot of the things work exactly, but I have a good idea of how to do those things.
Let's just say my character looks completely different from Paku's character in his speedrun, and he's pulling off moves that I don't have access to. Because either I haven't beat the game or I'm lacking a particular pickup and then making to a checkpoint. That way it like goes into your options of things that'll spawn. But for anybody that's unaware, this is a roguelike action game where biomes are shifted, levels are generated, enemies are randomized. So not only is this being done under, like, just shy of 4 minutes, so 4:07 is the current record, and Paku is already telling us that there is, like, time saves discovered. So not only that, but this is a randomized map that you are kind of actively reacting to, and that's why I think that this speedrun in particular is so cool.
No, that's great.
The runs, the difficult part about doing the runs is, like, no 2 runs are the same. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of weird because, like, if you go on YouTube and you just watch anyone speedrun it does look exactly the same thing. They just zoom past stuff. But, like, the maps are always different. The game never gives you the same 2 maps. So, you know, and that's, like, the characteristic of roguelikes, right? If you die to an enemy, you can't just, like, learn from your mistake. Oh, okay, I know there's an enemy down that corridor, so when I go in there, I'm going to, like, burst some skills out. Like, you'll go back to maybe that particular point approximately, and it'll just be a completely different layout. There won't be a corridor. Maybe it'll be a hallway, or maybe it'll be like a drop, a ladder, a turn, you know.
Right.
So it's always different. And that's one of the things that we have to fight against when we're doing speedruns, because it's an element completely out of our control. So there's a really huge sort of luck factor going in.
Yeah, we were talking last night, and you were comparing it to decks of cards, like getting a particular pattern and realizing, like, now's my chance.
Yeah, so I'll give the analogy again. Basically, speedrunning Dead Cells is a lot like getting a specific card in a deck of cards. If you want the Ace of Spades, it's a 1 in 52 chance, right? Mm-hmm. However, if you really want it, all you need to know is that in a brand new deck of cards, take out both jokers from the top and bottom of the deck, and the Ace of Spades is at the very bottom of the deck 100% of the time. So instead of 1 in 52, you get it 52 out of 52 times. And that's the whole process that we go through with speedrunning Dead Cells, is in order to get as close to 100% of the time, and you can do that through little hacks, not little hacks, just like by knowing how the game works. Yeah, there's strategies. And there's a lot of critical thinking that goes on, and you can't make the correct decision all the time, but you can raise the success rate at which you make the correct decision more often. So you can get it right instead of 10% of the time, you can get it right 60% of the time, you can get it right 80% of the time, and it starts to look more manageable once you have that know-how.
Yeah, I remember watching you the other morning, and you were talking to, I think it was another guy in your chat. You were explaining to him that you see it in tiles, this is the rough pattern stamped here, and it's going to be up or down. It's always almost identical if it's this pattern if I go in the door, versus when I come out of that chunk, it's going to be in this pattern if I recognize it.
Yeah. So the game, in order to utilize the randomness, the game uses a random number generator. And this is something that people already understand, but I'll just explain it anyways, is that there's no such thing as a truly random element, because it's made by humans who are not really random. Right. And so the random number generator has to obey certain rules when it decides what kind of number it will pick. And as long as you know those rules, then you can make a really educated guess as to where to go. So Prisoner's Quarters, the very first stage in the game, is a very good example. Currently, there are 3 exits. The one desired exit is Promenade of the Condemned. That's where the run wants to go. It's the fastest route. And the other 2 exits are that DLC, the Bad Sea DLC location, which I've only been to a couple times. I don't actually remember the name. And the other one is Toxic Sewers.
Yeah.
So if you're just guessing randomly, then you have a 1 in 3 chance of choosing the right exit. But there are a couple rules, right? In order to go to Toxic Sewers, you must pass through the vine goo, and you need the vine rune to make the little vine ladder come up, and then you climb up that, and then you can go to the path that goes there. So it shows up as a green dot on the minimap. So if you see that green dot, then you know that you're not going the correct direction. That's the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And the other exit is always behind a teleport rune. So you have the teleport rune to teleport through the tombstone or whatever, and then you can go to that exit. So you have to avoid those 2. And that shows up as a sort of pink or purple dot on the minimap, depending on how you see colors. And then, so the exit that we want, we have to avoid those 2 locations. Of course, the trick with staring at just the minimap, though, is that the vine goo shows up in a couple other locations and not necessarily on the path to Toxic, so you have to be a little bit careful if you're relying on that information. And another rule is that the path to the exit is always you must go through combat rooms. Now, combat rooms are the places where the enemies are. If you see an enemy, that area is a combat zone. And it just looks like a maze. Climb up, down platforms. Maybe you have to go. There's some walls, some doors, and there's enemies in there. Those, if you see the combat room, then you're going most likely in the correct direction. So that's a good hint.
And you're doing this all while avoiding being chased and slapped around by enemies and managing your health and all that.
Yeah. On top of dodging enemies and avoiding attacks, it looks like I'm running away, but the roll function has a cooldown, so I can't just keep spamming the skill freely. So if I land somewhere and there's a bunch of enemies, I may roll as soon as I can, or I may wait and do a regular parry because that's safer. I have to also consider the situation. You can't just run away. You can get punished if you run away and incorrectly, I guess.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention to what's happening on screen. You have to pay attention to what's on the minimap, and then you have to keep thinking about what you see displayed in front of you and use the information to, as best as you can, correctly gauge where you're supposed to go,
It's like 4D chess.
Yeah. But luckily, Prisoner's Quarters has a bunch of rules, which makes it a good example. So the best way to find the exit is, first you have to find the combat rooms. And combat rooms have a very, they have a very obvious shape on the minimap. There's lots of platforms, it zigzags, it looks like a maze.
Yeah.
Right? So if you see one of those on the mini map, then just choose that. And if it splits into two, that means one of them leads to toxic sewers. So you have a 50% chance, you know? Mm-hmm. And since the run is most likely going to end in failure, you might as well just pick and pray that you got it going. So, and then you choose one way. And there are a couple good signs. For example, if you see the shop on the mini map, which shows up as a sort of purple zone, that's a good sign. You must pass by the shop before you reach exit. It always spawns on the way to the exit. Oh. So if you see if you see the shop, head in whatever direction that shop is. You don't necessarily have to go through the shop, which sometimes you do, but as long as it's in that direction, like if it branches and one branch has a shop on the way, that's the correct way.
Right.
It'll 100%
That's just another
not be
tell you can keep track of while you're making those minute decisions. That's awesome. Yeah. Man. So I guess one of the things that I really like seeing when it comes to speedruns is how the developers interact with those communities. Have you seen any sort of those interactions between yourself and the community and the creators of Dead Cells?
Yeah, we have like we send messages to developers once in a while, and we say like and they actually heard our request. Like I spoke to the developer. And I said, we're speedrunning this game, and we really like it, but there's a couple problems if we're just speedrunning it. For example, we would love a timer that would catch the time in milliseconds. Because we use a sort of auto splitter, it checks the RAM, it sort of watches the memory of the game, and then we use that to keep time. But there are people whose computers can't load the game fast enough, so if we do it in real time, although it's not a fault of our own, it's not perfectly fair because some people's computers load the game slower than others. And then so a person who's good at the game and has a very powerful computer has an advantage, you know? Right. So in order to eliminate that, can you set up a permanent timer that only records time when we're playing and stops during, for example, I don't know, cutscenes or loading screens or something? And they're like, okay, sure, we'll do that. And sure enough, they did. So now there's an actual like speedrun sort of mode in the game. Yeah.
And that kind of hits as default, because even when I'm playing, like, there are doors that unlock based on if you reach them fast enough. And so there's a little timer that'll tell you, like, not only when you talk to the door, it'll be like, oh, you were 30 seconds off. Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
But there's also that timer, and it pauses in between every stage, because after every stage, you go to, like, the down zone area, where you make your upgrades and purchase things with cells and, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it pauses right there.
The timer has a couple behaviors. Like, the default behavior is if you go into a shop, if you go into the transition room where the collector hangs out, if you go into a treasure room, those zones count as out of combat and are safe zones. Time stops, right? But for the speed run, it must not stop. So the permanent timer, it just keeps ticking no matter where you are. And that's the difference. Yeah, so when you first start the game, that's the timer that you are playing with, the sort of the I don't know, default timer, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Yeah.
There's a lot of cool features, lots of things you can turn on and off, so you can actually like tailor the speedrun pretty good. You guys aren't using any, like, there's no particular seeded runs, are there? Or do people do that?
We used to have seeded runs. That used to be a thing. But it wasn't very popular, so the category died out. It's not like, you know, like if it got popular again, like we would add that category and people could do those runs to see if they could find the ultimate seed and then see who could run it the best or whatever. And that's definitely an option. But currently, and our committee is really small. We don't even have like 15 people doing runs these days, you know. So there's just not enough interest in it right now. So. You know, maybe if we were like Celeste, where there's like thousands of people who want to do the speed run, then, you know, maybe we could.
All it takes is one legendary GDQ run, and you will have more people, I guarantee it.
I really want to go to GDQ. I've never been there, and I think it would be a huge honor to sit on the couch and speedrun for the sake of fighting cancer. And that's kind of like a little mini dream.
There's a great opportunity right now for you specifically, because there's so many events happening just online. And even ones like our buddy Streiser, who we've had on the show, he runs one in Canada called Game Over Cancer. And so that's actually got its own little following, and he sets up speedruns and does it for 2 or 3 days. So I would keep an eye out for these online events if I were you, man.
Yeah, embarrassingly, I don't know, because like I'm very bad at sort of my work-life balance. I just haven't, I have never known where to find this information. Admittedly, I haven't really like Googled it, like, oh, speedrun events, go. But like, I just, there's so many I didn't know about. But if I knew about them, I definitely would participate. And I would love to do a bunch because I like speedrunning this game, and I would like more people to be interested. And maybe watching my video might not be a very great way to get into it because it looks pretty cool. But like the tech is very easy to learn, and everything else that I explain, which might sound difficult, it just takes time. Like, I explained it kind of in a complicated way, but really if you play, you will pick that up subconsciously. So you don't really need to like write anything down or, have a chart or a graph or, look at a special analysis. Like that's, you just play.
Even in my short time, I can get to the promenade like consistently within 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's just because like you play enough, you get used to the movement. The movement in this game is fantastic. And once you like understand how certain actions play into each other, it just flows super well.
Yeah, I really love the way it feels. Like, there are some games that I like, but I don't speedrun them because I feel like movement is too clunky.
Yeah.
And that really bothers me. For example, I actually dabbled in Katana Zero speedruns because it feels really good to mess around in that game. Mm-hmm. And of course Celeste, but I'm so used to playing on like controller for those games, and it's actually a little bit of a handicap. So I can't reach my full potential, but once in a while I'll practice for a bit and I'll submit like a really subpar time, and it feels good and it's fun. Yeah.
Sometimes it's fun to just put a time on there. Like I know that I've dabbled in 2 things. I've attempted to do high score chases of the first Metal Slug, specifically the switchboard that you can download. And like the only reason it's on a leaderboard somewhere, or we had to take it down because of supposed conflict of interest, is because I was the only one on that leaderboard. But I was like, man, that's cool. Like I'll put a decent, respectable score up here for somebody that just started. And then Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, I used to be able to do, aside from the 2 like anchor tricks that you have to do, the zips to get to specific areas, I'm awful at. But I think they actually routed around those now, so maybe I'll go back to that eventually. They like go into a debug menu or some shit.
Yeah. I love though, like the speedrun, like speedrun always is like evolving, even for a game as old as like N64 Mario, right? They're still finding new stuff years and years and years later. And like, it's always exciting when someone's just like, I found an exploit, or I found a new trick, or I found a new optimization. It's so fun. Yeah. With Dead Cells, we don't really know what the perfect run will ever look like because they keep updating it. But at least, like, thanks to that, the run keeps evolving and changing, and it's fun, like, because when we first started, we had to fight bosses, right? But we were in such a hurry that, like, we would skip bosses. Mm-hmm. But then the devs were like, well, that's not fair. So they patched it, and then we couldn't skip bosses anymore. So then we had to remember how to fight the boss again. But we were still really salty about having to fight bosses. So we found a new exploit to skip bosses. And then they patched that. And we found a new exploit. And they patched that. And then we found a new exploit. And they said, we're probably going to break something else. So they fixed it. So they're going to leave it for now.
Now, the one that you're currently running, is that an actual, like, a determined path? Or are you doing something to skip a boss?
What do you mean?
So the current run that you've got up, you end up at a fountain and then ends the game. Is there a boss that you're skipping, or is that just a particular path you can take to not have to fight one?
No, I'm skipping the boss.
Gotcha.
Like, so in order to get to the fountain, a typical route, you have to go through 3 bosses. You have to go through Concierge, you have to go through Timekeeper, and then you have to go through Hand of the King. However, if we play on 2 boss cells, we can go through the Giant instead, and then after the Giant, you have a choice of going straight to Hand of the King, or you can go to High Peak Castle. So we can skip High Peak Castle, because that place is really annoying. You have to find 2 keys, wherever the hell they are, and then go through 2 doors.
Right.
And then fight Hand of the King. So we can skip 1 biome, and it's a little bit shorter. But for the bosses themselves, we now have an exploit where we can just like zoom past them with a skill that we don't really know why it works, but it behaves that way, so we're doing it. And so we can skip the fighting Concierge and get to the exit. We can skip fighting the Giant and get to the exit, and then we can zoom past Hand of the King and then just go into the fountain without fighting it. And that's the run currently. Yeah. But if it weren't for the skip, then we would actually have to fight the bosses. And it would still be faster to go that route anyways, because it's like it's just the least number of biomes to get to the exit.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do people run older versions of it, or does it like force you to update to the newest one to play for any of that?
We actually had like this was actually like a big like hot topic for a while. The conclusion is that we decided down patching should be okay because other speedrun communities do that. You know, they just if they want to beat it, and like once the game updates past a certain point, you can't experience a run from a previous patch anymore, and those are fun too. You know, maybe I want to do a speedrun back when Assassin or Timekeeper was the final boss. You know, and see like how modern techniques hold up against strats that we used to use back then. Maybe, you know, I could beat it, probably, you know, and that would be kind of cool to experience. So we decided to allow down patching. So we can, so now the board says like, it's got 2 categories, but for some reason it just says any update and then current major update, but nobody submits to current major update. So that's probably going to disappear soon. So it's just any update. Right. So any update counts, and then you just like keep an eye on what version that person's running on, you know? Yeah. Unless the update is like so drastically different, like, then it might go into a different category. But these days people run generally close to the current patch. Yeah, there's a bug. Right now we're on 2.0, and if you go back a bit, 1.7, there is a bug where if you use a skill called Tilleric, which makes you jump up and then smash down, and if you rolled, canceling the animation before you actually smash down, you would be invulnerable, because you're supposed to be invulnerable during the animation, but you would get to keep invincibility until you use the skill again. So then, yeah, so as you can imagine, that would make boss fighting very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need that one, because every time I hit a boss in this game, I just get raffle stomped. And I'm like, damn it. I have way more fun going through the levels and, like, making those decisions and fighting all the little mobs, like, way more than I do any of the boss fights.
Yeah, so, but you can only do that bug on that patch. And people are like, if we had that bug, could we do stuff faster? And so we have a couple runners right now experimenting with that.
Right on.
I think they actually did do it really, like a world record, a couple world records were achieved on that. But now that we have a new technique that was discovered, we probably won't be relying on the invulnerability glitch anymore, because it's faster to do it with the current patch.
Right on. Okay. So, Paco, one of the things that me and you talked about whenever we were talking about doing this interview, because you're like, hey, I beat the record, I'm back on top. And so I was like, whoa, that's really cool. But there's a darker part of this story that most people probably aren't aware of. And so that's something I wanted to bring up here, because I think that the redemption story is just so cool. And it tells a lot about your evolution of character and that sort of thing. So, and I don't know the time frame for this, so you have to update me on that. But at one point, you were cheating at this speedrun. And you have since kind of faced that, made those reconciliations with yourself and probably your community, and have since got back on top of the leaderboard completely honest. So tell me how this happened and what was your journey there?
Like, I'm not proud of it. So, like, about a year ago, I believe it was April 17th or something like that. Somewhere around there. In April, I was doing runs, and the best way for me to describe it really is I had a moment of weakness. I said, fuck it, I'm just going to splice a run. I'm going to do a seeded run and then make it look like it was a regular run. So I edited a video very poorly. I got caught right away. Like, I'm not a good cheater, you know. I'm not a good cheater. Like, you know, and I got caught, and then, you know, so the community was like, well, how could you do this? You're a moderator. You're the world you're a world record contender. You know, like, what, you know, why would, like, you don't even need to do any of this, but you did it. And, you know, I don't know. I guess I was really frustrated with doing runs and not getting results, or, you know, like, I got, like, there's a bunch of feelings. And so in a moment of weakness, I decided that, like, cheating would be a great thing. Good idea at the time. And so I did that, and I was caught right away. But, like, during the confrontation, like, you know, like, because even when I had posted the video and, like, submitted it, I didn't, you know, I wasn't like, oh yeah, this is gonna be awesome, I'm gonna have a world record, no one's gonna know, and this is the, you know, like, I wasn't like,
you knew you were gonna get caught as soon as you hit go.
Yeah, I wasn't excited about it, and I wasn't very happy about it either, you know. And then when I got caught, I actually felt like a sense of relief, like, actually, then we can stop now. But I didn't know what was going to happen, but I have to face the consequences for it. So the community was obviously very shocked. Nobody was very happy to hear that. It's not good news, obviously, when a very, like, you know, well-known member and well-trusted member does something like this. So some people are upset, some people are very confused, and nobody knew what to do. And so the final decision after deliberating for a while was 1 year ban, and then after that 1 year you can come back. And when I was called out on it too, like, I confessed right away, and because I thought about it, it's not really a long time to think about it because it's happening then and there, but my moment of sort of realization was I had seen, I watched, for example, Apollo Legend. And he's that guy. He does this little sort of YouTube documentaries about speedrunners who cheat, right? He for example, Todd Rogers, right?
Which was a story that I was kind of tangential to because I was in Twin Galaxies on their writing staff during that whole process.
Yeah. Him and that other dude, the Donkey Kong dude, Billy right?
Mitchell.
And and those people and such other runners who are not that famous or have so much influence, right? When they get called out, they never ever take it with grace. They double down. I have nothing to gain from this. I didn't do it. You don't have any proof. This is hearsay.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to because I know I cheated.
Yeah.
I know I cheated. It is without question that I cheated, right? And for the people who are realizing it then and there is what was I gonna do? Fight this out, burn all the bridges. I didn't feel good about it. Maybe they didn't know then and there, but I didn't feel good about it. And so I decided that just accepting my fate then and there would be the best way for things to blow over. And then if I really truly regretted what I had done, then I should accept. I don't know if there's a graceful way to do it, but just accept everything gracefully and don't do anything stupid, talk back, right? If someone said, "How dare you cheat? You've completely ruined the trust that this community has," then my word should be, "Yes, you are exactly correct, and I have nothing to say about that." Other than I'm sorry.
It's not like you were defending a case or anything. You were taking it on your shoulders and be like, "Yep, okay." So you were banned for a year. What was that year like? Did you watch the other speedrunners? Did you interact with anybody, or did you kind of disconnect yourself from Dead Cells for a while?
Well, I sort of had this sort of the sort of the shameful escape, I guess. I deleted all my runs off the Dead Cells leaderboard before they took away my my permissions, and then I quit the Discord. I actually left the server. And then on YouTube, I basically privated all my videos so that no one could watch them. And I'm just reset.
Yeah.
But then, I was still streaming on Twitch, and I was still playing Dead Cells on Twitch for a couple weeks. And then in May 17th, which is kind of the day for me, right? It kind of really hit me, it was kind of starting to settle in, everything that had happened and what I'd done. And what I had lost, or even potentially had stood to lose forever from that point on. And I was like, this isn't really the right way, disappearing, That's just taking the easy way out. It's like if you commit a crime and you said, okay, well, I'm going to repent by taking my life. That's just taking the easy way out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a weird, suicide kind of thing. And I didn't want to do it that way either. So I said that if I am really sorry, I have to not only apologize to everyone properly, right? Instead of just disappear and into self-exile, right? But I also have to confront the things that I did as a speedrunner, right? And if I am a speedrunner, then I should speedrun. I should speedrun and show that I didn't need to cheat in the first place, that I can do perfectly good runs, right? And I should kind of go through with that and and that could be my apology. So what the sort of the plan that I hatched, right, is that I was banned for a year, but it's almost about a month had passed, right? So I had resolved myself to first not touch Dead Cells for a whole year, right?
Okay.
And I was already shunned and stuff. I was out, so nobody's gonna care what I did. But for me, it was like a sort of a promise to myself that, like, first of all, this isn't going to happen again, and then I'm going to do right. So I didn't touch Dead Cells for a whole year, right? I didn't touch the Dead Cells for a whole year, and I was going to, like, take a screenshot as proof. Like, it'll just say, last played May 17th. And then 1 year later, I was going to take a screenshot showing that I hadn't touched the game for a whole year. And that would, like, be, like, my sort of, like, I guess, my first step to repenting.
Right.
And I apologized to the community, and I told them what my plan was, and to my surprise, everyone was like, well, I mean, if you're going to apologize about it, and if you're going to be this straightforward about it, then then I guess we'll see what happens, and we'll try to let it be water under the bridge. And so far, it has been like that. So I got off really lucky. And I honestly felt like if people decided to change their mind and just ban me forever, especially after shamefully coming back and all that, and just saying, yeah, I'm going to repent by doing it like this, I mean, the reaction could have been anything, including very negative, and that could have been it for me too.
And again, this is a fairly tight-knit community. You said, like, currently there's only about 15 of you, but at the time you're talking 20, 30 people probably, and that all probably considered yourselves not only like members of this particular community, but likely friends as well. So, I mean, I can understand why there was so much like careful, measured steps through this entire process.
Yeah. So, and that was it. I didn't play Dead Cells for a whole year. I started streaming very like less often. Maybe I would stream like other games, right? But, first few months it was like, no problem, I got this. Half a year goes by, and I was thinking, like, what's going to be like if I start running again, right? Maybe by, like, my 8th or 9th month, like, as the end was approaching, I got, like, increasingly nervous, right? Because, like, and I was staying in touch with the community. I went back, right? And I was staying in touch with the community and kind of like listening in what everyone was saying. I would still check the main Dead Cells Discord and look for bugs so that I could at least be informed, right? But I didn't watch any other speedrunners do runs, and I didn't touch the game. Yeah. So only things that I had heard, right?
And that's not just in a streaming sense. You're just not playing the game outright, even privately.
Yeah, even privately. Yeah. Because then it would show up on Steam that I had opened the game, and then I wouldn't be able to take that screenshot, which was at the very least important to me. And then the day came, I could do a run, right? Well, May 17th was coming up, and my friend Fury, he was like, "Hey, you said a year," and I was like, "Yeah, today's a year," and he's like, "No, you have to wait till the 18th so that it's past a year." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "That's how it works." So I waited one extra day, and I started doing runs. And Roxtomb and Rhino G and a bunch of the other like OG members of the community came into the stream and said, "How's it feel to be doing runs again?" And I was like, "Well, it feels really good. Like I feel good now."
Yeah.
And like what I did isn't gonna go away, but like I hope this could be a start. And they said, "Welcome back." And I felt really happy. Like that was kind of like sort of the redeeming moment for me.
Yeah. And to put it into perspective, it's the first week of August when we're recording this. I imagine we'll have it out in the public in a few days or something. But at the within that like 4-month period, you've made it all the way back up to the top again.
Yeah. So I started doing runs very like feverishly. I was like trying to figure out how to do the light speed warp trick that's the current staple of the run. Learn how to use meat skewer because they found out that it gives you a little boost. And I was like learning the new tech, and because the runs now take place in a new biome and on a slightly harder difficulty, I had to learn again how to play. And as expected, a 1 year blank, I couldn't get a very good time.
Basically, got to learn from scratch in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So and I had the world record then was 4 minutes and 34 seconds, and my first run was about 7 minutes. So that would have put me between 14th and 13th place on the leaderboard. Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's first aim for below 6 minutes, and then go down. And then about a few days later, I got my first sub 6 run. And then I said, okay, now we got to go below 5 minutes. And until I can get below 5 minutes, I can't start thinking about getting the world record. So I was doing runs, like keep pushing. And I started climbing back up the leaderboard, but I didn't submit any times because I wanted to like first test the waters.
Right.
But as I was getting closer and closer, I knew that if I was just patient, I could keep doing runs and I could maybe even get the world record. So I decided to hold off on doing like submission. I think I submitted one time, like just as a placeholder, which put me in 5th or 4th at the time. But other than that, I wasn't like really looking to submit runs. I was just trying to push.
Yeah.
And like I watched Rockstom's video, and I was like trying to figure out how the biome sepulcher works, like the rules, the patterns, like look for any kind of exploit, where I can optimize my movements, how I can try to make less mistakes in the unforeseen event.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, after oh man, I don't even remember the date. It says 3 weeks ago on the leaderboard now. So I guess 3 weeks ago, the day it happened that I got the world record, and so I was very excited. I was very excited because I don't think like at this point like a lot of people were like let's keep an eye on him or anything. They were just kind of like just waiting to see what happened.
Yeah.
No one was really talking about it. You know what I mean? Like And then I got the run. All right, and I was like, okay, I got a run. This is it. Please check my run and see if it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I want them to look because I no longer have anything to hide. But if they are going to check my runs with increased scrutiny, which they should, and I wouldn't have it any other way, then this is the first start.
Right.
So I put up my run, and then a little bit later they're just like, yeah, looks good. You're the world record holder, and they put it up, and it was just like, and everyone was like, Pog, man, you did it! Yeah. You fucking did it! What a redemption story, man! You fell down here, and then you climbed all the way back up, and it took over a year, Mm-hmm. And they're like, what's it feel like? And I was just like, I feel liberated. And like one of my motivations for really wanting to get back world record was because I wanted to show like really and truly that I'm a much better speedrunner than I am a cheater, mm-hmm. and that I didn't need to cheat, the entire time, and that it really was just like a moment of weakness,
yeah.
And I mean, obviously I intended to do it, but I wanted it to be as an accident. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the story, I guess.
And it's a super cool story. One of the more interesting ones I've come across in speedrunning. And speedrunning's full of great stories.
Yeah, no, I love that because I didn't know much about it. And Alex was mentioning it to me when he said that he got you set up for the interview with us, which I was really excited about no matter what, because it's always fun to watch you and like having you in. You got a great personality and you're always doing silly stuff.
Since that Twin Galaxies interview, I always there's a bot that we set up for any streamers that we like or anybody in our community, and it pings about every morning, and I'm like, Paku's on.
Yeah, that's where I started figuring out your time and was like, you know what, I can actually like watch somebody I know in the morning, which would be better than watching like a generic channel of something.
Unfortunately, because of my work schedule, I can't stream very consistently. Well, yeah. So like I thought I actually put up a schedule thinking I could keep it up, but then it actually turned out to be too much, and I haven't edited it, so that's a lie. But like I do my best to stream as much as I can, even just a little bit every day, but they are really inconsistent, so it's not very favorable odds for me, but I do what I can.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun to turn on a camera every now and again, but I also feel like some days you're like, man, I don't want to turn on that camera and be on.
I actually originally got into streaming because a friend of mine, she had a medical condition, and she was terminal. And so she couldn't really go outside, so she'd spend a lot of time at home playing games, but her family wasn't very well off. So what I did was, because I could get games whenever I want, right, and I work, and I have a lot of freedom that she didn't have, I thought, well, if I like played stuff on Twitch, then she could watch, and then it'd be like she was playing games at least, or at least the closest thing too. So that's why I started streaming, so that like she could watch, and I had been keeping that up. But unfortunately, actually, just the other day, she passed away. She went to the hospital for a stomach thing, and she died of a lung thing, and it was her time, and we all knew it was going to happen, and we were very sad that to see her go. But
yeah, of course,
so it is what it is. But she's gone now, and I was like, well, I don't know if I should keep streaming then, because the main purpose for me streaming, she's gone now. But I kind of thought about it, and like, well, that may have been how it started, but like I have met a couple people on Twitch, and I mean, I only get like, if I'm lucky, 5 viewers whenever I play something that's not Dead Cells, and but those people do come to watch, and I appreciate them, and it's like if I just quit, especially since they said that they liked watching me, and I believe them because they do come to watch,
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep streaming. So I think I'd keep doing it, and if anyone will have me, then I think it'll have been worth it. If even one person decides to come to watch, then I think that's good enough reason for me to stream. And obviously the dream, right? Oh yes, it'd be so cool, it'd be so popular,
Of course.
like I don't know, Shroud or somebody with lots of viewers, and maybe not Ninja. I don't want to act like that, but but like it'd be cool to be popular and get lots of subs and do that for a living.
Yeah.
But I think just in general, like if I'm gonna play a game, then it feels kind of productive to just turn on a camera and play, and if that's good, that's good enough for someone, that's good enough for me. So it's
Right
yeah,
on.
that's my thing. That's my MO.
So not only has your speedrunning improved, you've went through the whole ups and downs of it. How has streaming and speedrunning improved or affected your actual life outside of gaming and being on the internet?
Not really anything different. No,
Like, you don't find yourself
I
more
mean-
effective at things, or you maybe think about things differently now that you've went through this whole process?
Well, I guess now that I speed run, right? Whenever I'm at work, I'm like, is there a way I can do this faster? Like I'm looking for little like exploits at work. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But
Life hacks.
I just teach English at a sort of private this is a company called Eon. They teach English to adults. That's where I work, and that's what I do. I just teach English. You can't really speedrun teaching English, so no super big impact, unfortunately. But if there's anything to look forward to, maybe I had heard actually during my this kind of hit me hard. At some point during the year that I was in my exile, Rock's Tomb had his name printed in the Guinness World Record book. And I was like, fuck me, man.
That's awesome.
If I didn't cheat, that could have been me.
Yeah.
You know? Like even more reasons to do better if I come back. You know what I mean?
If it makes you feel better, Guinness has done some odd choices recently with like...
Yeah, I heard about the reinstatement of some dubious records by a certain someone
without really
people
providing the evidence. They're like, oh, we have the evidence. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take your word
Smells
over
like
the
money.
600 hours that this entire staff put into it that
And, I get
derailed
it.
most of the things they were trying to do.
You know, and like the story, like whatever people feel about how that story went out or about the legitimacy of Guinness World Records, is one thing, right? And like I guess I could have my own opinion and discussion about that, but like I also think that like people do want to get the recognition that they want, and that could have potentially been me, and I thought that would have been cool to have, and Rockstum got it, and it's cool for him. It actually helps his stream out. I noticed when like he's like doing, because I think he does like variety streams. He plays and he speedruns of the game like Terraria and stuff like that, and and like he posts all his accolades there, and it's kind of cool, and it makes him look more interesting. And I compared to that, my profile is kind of like bland. It just says come watch me or don't.
Whatever.
You know what I mean? Like that's it, and then that's it. It's like silence, and that's it. And then it's like, this guy, I don't know.
Which,
You know what I mean?
that can have some interesting aspects to it. Some of the most interesting people I know are like, I don't give a shit if you talk to me or not. My grandpa was like that. He's like this famous bluegrass musician who made all his fiddles and just hung out playing music like 90% of his life. And people would come in from Canada or whatever just to sit and chat with him. And then they'd leave, and he's like, do you know who those people are? I don't fucking know. It's so funny. So it just depends, man. Well, Paku, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Zach, did you have any closing thoughts?
This was awesome to hear more and dive in through your story. And it's probably one of the best that I've heard, like, period, as far as somebody, like, coming out with a happier ending than their, like, fall.
Mm-hmm.
And not being, like, stuck in the struggle or, like... And you mentioned that you weren't, like, proud of it and you're... you've owned it, and at this point, you've come back, so you're like, it's like an extra fire that I see inside you from it. Like, yeah, I fucked up, but I did it. I'm doing great. You look like you feel good about it now. Like,
I do. Thank you.
You're welcome, and that's awesome.
We're super
'Cause you're
excited
in there-
to see what happens next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep watching, hanging out with you. I'm definitely gonna keep watching you
very
before
much.
work because it works out super great, and you're fun to chit chat with.
I'm stoked to see what happens in the Dead Cells community. Like, how much farther can we push these records? I love seeing that.
Yeah, the next world record will probably be below 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we found a new technique, and it's kind of like the holy grail of techniques we've been looking for. We can skip the locked doors, which we hate so much.
Oh.
Because
Oh, is that your arrow thing that you were doing?
Yeah, I've been doing runs with it now, but I haven't submitted any. But because I'm so confident that like if I pull it off, then it'll be a new world record. And it should be one by quite a lot actually. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know if it's me or someone else, right? If the next world record will even be like the really good one, you know what I mean? Like maybe there'll be a shorter one than that. So
right.
First things first, we got to get it first. And I mean 407 is really solid, so it'll take a while. But the next one is coming, and I'm just really salty right now because my controller broke. One of the buttons keeps jamming. I just can't speedrun with it right now.
Yeah.
And because of Corona, my controller replacement won't arrive until the 22nd. And in Japan, Sony dominates all the markets. You can't find an Xbox controller in any store.
Wow.
And it's really bothering me. I walked around, I checked online, I can't find anything. I can't even find an old Xbox controller. And it's just been like really frustrating because the Xbox One controller feels really good ergonomically.
Yeah, because I don't think it can be understated just how unpopular the Xbox is in Japan. At least seemingly. So it's crazy that one, you chose to do that, and two, that like you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, so unfortunately I have to wait.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah. I feel like if I snooze too long, someone's gonna take this position from under me, and then my work is gonna have to like triple in effort.
At the end of the day, you got there with that 407. If it takes somebody else beating it, and you to be like, all right, let's go again. That's where things get really interesting, is when people go back and forth.
Yeah, but anyways, it's my spot for now, and I'm not gonna let anyone take it. I'm gonna preemptively push it down so that no one else can take it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wanna be like the TGH of Dead Cells.
I've talked to him before.
Just always hang out up there.
Also seems like a cool dude. We did a Q&A there for Celeste, I think, actually, or maybe Owlboy or something. I don't know. He's an alright guy, but. All right, so Henpaku, if people wanted to find you online on the internet somewhere, where might you point them?
Twitch, really. I have a Discord, but I don't really get a lot of people talking in there, so Twitch is the best place. And I do want to grow my Twitch channel, even just by a little bit, so please catch me on Twitch anytime I'm on. I'm sorry for the inconsistent times, but I always try to stream at least sometime every day, a little bit.
Right on. Twitch.tv/Henpaku. And for anybody that missed that spelling in the beginning, it's HENPAKU. Zach, where would people find you on the internet?
I am Exquisite Liar everywhere except for Twitter still. I am Exquisite_Liar.
We gotta slip that guy a $5 or something and be like, hey, man.
Dude, it's a bot from like 2016 or something.
Oh my gosh.
It's a bot!
Yeah, it's a bot. It made the account with my name and then never did anything. No tweets, no follows, no followers. It's got a weird like Russian name and just doesn't do anything.
It's ridiculous.
That sucks.
Yep. So hopefully we can get to the point that we get a profile like stamp, like we're real people, and then I can be like, hey, that's my name. I'd like it.
Yeah. We just one of us needs to get verified is what needs to happen.
Yeah. But everybody wants a sports.
Yeah, of course. Speaking of Twitter, you can find me at AC McCumbers. That's 2 C's in McCumbers. And if you wanted to send us an email, you can do that at theforeverclassicpodcast@gmail.com. Our website, foreverclassicgames.com, is the anchor point for most of our stuff. And if you are listening to us on a podcatcher that has a rating service, leave us a rate. We might just read it on the show. And we do try to check out our emails and make sure that we're interacting a little bit. And our Discord is probably the best like hangout spot. All that's available on our website. Go find us. It's an absolute pleasure. If anybody's in the Dallas, Texas area and knows some game work for Mr. Alex, let me know. I am desperately seeking for something that's more in my wheelhouse rather than having to do like the daily grind job and then, hit the switch and hang out and do this. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Paku. Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Really, really appreciate you coming onto the story and opening up with us. I think that your story is incredible, and I'm super excited to be a part of how that gets shared around. So it's been an absolute blast, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having
so
me.
much.
It's a really cool opportunity.
And of course, for anybody listening, thank you for listening to our show. Thank you for checking out our reviews on our website or whatever you may be doing with us. We really appreciate everybody's time. And as always, stay cool, stay safe.